Well, I'm back in London, and the reason I'm back in London is this guy's birthday, so I flew over for your birthday. Happy birthday.
35, again.
I know, you don't look a day over 60. So we're continuing our discussion of, if you've been following the last few episodes, we've been talking a lot about this year, really media. Well, actually, I say that. We've been talking for 10 years about media as a lever for growth.
Yeah.
In case you've been awake that whole time and following our narrative, media as a lever for growth, media is an investment in growth, right? So I'm sure you've got that by now. Going into the year, we've called for greater simplicity in the entire media industry, and that's, everyone around the industry is responsible for that. But as we come back to media for growth, right, which is our kind of rallying cry, media has to be driving an outcome for the business. So in the coming weeks, we thought it'd be helpful to actually just break that down a little bit. And we're going to start looking at different functions in media. And so we're going to start off today talking about the internal media function. And what we mean by that, that's the responsible for media. So your media director on the advertiser side, this is, and their team. Okay, their kind of media operations team, what that might be.
Yeah.
So let's start thinking about that, and then we can start to think over the next coming weeks further down the chain. Yes. So when it comes to the media operations, what is going on?
Well, we've talked a lot about media's place within the corporate agenda and the focus on media leaders to be more tangible and direct in their ability to deliver a business outcome, right? That's what their chief executives are asking them to do. Increasingly, we're finding with some of our clients that media directors actually have a revenue target linked to their responsibility, to their discipline, which is kind of unheard of, right? Which is brilliant because it illustrates that the business understands that getting media right can actually drive a business outcome.
Good.
With that, however, comes more responsibility. And how do you position yourself? How do you engineer yourself as a media leader for success, given that you've got some very kind of tangible targets against your name and against your discipline? And it's all about engineering the right behaviors internally first, and then making sure that those behaviors are reflected externally with your media agency partners. And that's what we're going to talk about.
Exactly right. And I think our experience in recent years is that maybe half are doing it and half aren't. Let's just say that's probably maybe oversimplifying. But I think nowadays about half of media operations, internal media operations, as part of a larger marketing team, have evolved that narrative to an investment in growth and media as a source of growth and all that kind of good stuff. And media directors, half of them, are empowered to be fiscally responsible, not just for the money, but also as part of the strategic marketing function. The other half are still seen very much as an executional part of the marketing team. Sometimes feel like the money flows downhill to them, and then they have to go spend it and be accountable for it and reduce costs. So there's still probably half the market that's got a long way to go.
So, mate, what are the implications?
Well, good question. So, I think in our experience, we see, to again oversimplify perhaps, but 50% of advertisers are probably got to where you're describing, which is see media as an investment in growth, have the attention internally that media is a critical function of the marketing org and that kind of stuff. And then probably still 50% of advertisers, unfortunately, still see media as a cost to the business, still seen as very executional, downhill, with pressure to treat media as a cost and therefore reduce cost, and the bad behaviors that come with that. The implications for the first group, let's call it media as an investment group, are, we think, very positive, and it's a good cycle that just improves over time. So if you can articulate media as a source of growth internally, then you're more likely to get the company to see that as an investment, which means you're more likely to be able to get the headcount you need to grow your capabilities internally, increasingly important. You're more likely to be able to articulate a brief which is really interesting for a great agency talent. So actually you get better agencies and better people working on your business internally and externally. And you'll be able to measure the agency performance far better than just asking them to reduce costs, for example. So the continuous improvement will gather momentum. Now, if you're in a very fortunate position, that you can start to make media dollars accountable for driving revenue and actual real business outcomes, then that's great, because that starts to be truly seen as an investment.
Yeah.
And the company will start to value media in a way that for every dollar that comes in, there's an expected amount that comes back, which is a great position to be in. But it's quite a rare position. For those, let's call them, media as a cost, it's a very kind of slow downward decaying spiral, unfortunately, because the more that media is commoditized, the more you treat your external partners as commodity suppliers, less agency talent wants to work in those environments where media is only spoken about on its performance and accountability metrics, and is not considered innovative or creative or strategic or business growing function. So it's very hard, I think, to be a media director in an organization where media is viewed as a cost. And we speak to a lot of these media directors, and they're kind of frustrated, and they want to change internally the narrative and educate their businesses, but that's a slow ask. But you have to just start you have to make a plan for kind of how to climb out of the well, and get back to parity at least. And that has to be a 1 or 2 year plan of education internally. But it's really worth doing, because then you become hugely empowered then as a media director for growth. It's much more fun.
Absolutely.
Right then, so you're a media director. Yes. Given all of that we discussed, where do you start? What do you start doing?
Well, the number of things that we suggest. The first is understand kind of where you are at. So do some form of diagnostic, understand how good or bad your current media management capabilities are internally. That gives you a line in the sand from which you can begin to start, hopefully, improving. You talk about continuous improvement.
And you start to align your team.
Absolutely.
Right? You get consensus, which is a really important place to start.
Yes, it is really important. So once you understand kind of where you are, you then need to define and articulate your ambition for media.
Yes.
Why do you spend that amount of money on media? What role does it play in driving that business outcome? The clearer you are enabling to articulate that, it should provide you with at least a North Star or a direction of travel based on what your ambition and your target should be from where you currently are.
Yes.
Right? So you've got your baseline, you've got your ambition for media, then you start working on your strategic imperatives to get there. Work out how you're going to plug the gaps where your weaknesses currently are.
Yeah.
And often that can be as simple as just defining a consistent KPI framework.
Yep.
Understanding how you measure success in media and figuring out which bits perhaps you want to do internally and which bits you're still very comfortable externalizing with agency partners becomes part of that. And once you've got that, you've got a blueprint, and you've got a blueprint for future media growth, and you've got a blueprint by which you can properly and constructively engage with the agency community.
Yeah, very good. Amen. That's what I say in America. Good, so I'm told. Okay, so that's the beginning of that. That's, if you're a media director going into 2020 now, starting to think about your, how you might deliver media for growth. So if that's not on your agenda, maybe put it on your agenda. And these are some of the ways that you can think about working through that. We'll come back to this now over the next few weeks, and we'll look at more areas to try and be helpful, to give you a bit of focus on things and the language to use. But I think that's it for now. Please subscribe so that you can follow this Media for Growth journey or toolkit or whatever you want to call that. So you can click down below, be alerted on the next episodes. But that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching.
See you next time.